This is hopefully the first step on a journey towards a civilization on Mars, life becoming multiplanetary.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
And think to change times and laws.
Life can become multiplanetary. This is the goal we should strive for.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven, tabernacle in heaven.
I believe that it's important for the future to be a spacefaring civilization, and ultimately be out there among the stars,
Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord.
Be out there among the stars,
Be
out there among the stars.
and though thou set thy nest among the stars.
If the future does not include being out there among the stars, based on the moon and expanding beyond Earth, and
Among the stars,
be out there among the stars, life becoming multiplanetary. The long-term aspiration is to develop the technologies necessary to transport a large number of people and cargo to Mars in order to create a self-sustaining civilization there. And that's really why I started the company, was because it seemed as though
to create the possibility for life on other planets.
Yeah, exactly.
So you decide you want to try and do this.
Can't just be like a handful of people, because that's obviously not going to create a self-sustaining civilization.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. It's hard to
You'd made some money from the sale of PayPal. You decided to build a space company. Why on earth would someone do that?
For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God.
The goal of SpaceX is to try to advance rocket technology, and in particular to try to crack a problem that I think is vital for humanity to become a spacefaring civilization.
I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
Which is to have a rapidly and fully reusable rocket.
And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast.
What are the things that need to happen in order for the future to be an exciting and inspiring one? And I really think there's a fundamental difference if you sort of look into the future between a humanity that is a spacefaring civilization that's out there exploring the stars on multiple planets. And I think that's really exciting, and compared with one where we are forever confined to Earth until at some eventual extinction event.
Let no man deceive you by any means. For that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God.
But the big innovation is still ahead, and you're working on it now. Tell us about this.
It's important that the rocket stages be able to come back, to be able to return to the launch site and be ready to launch again within a matter of hours.
Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved.
Wow.
Yeah.
Reusable rocket.
Yes.
I guess paves the way for your dream to actually take, at some point, to take humanity to Mars at scale.
SpaceX or some combination of companies and governments need to make progress in the direction of making life multiplanetary, of establishing a base on another planet, on Mars being the only realistic option, and then building that base up until we're a true multi-planet species.
And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven.
In April 2016, SpaceX announced that they are planning to send a mission to Mars, potentially as soon as 2018. This mission, known as Red Dragon, would be privately funded, receive support and guidance from NASA.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads.
Meet the Dragon 2, a capsule currently being developed by SpaceX as the successor to their original Dragon capsule, which has been supplying the International Space Station since 2012.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
How have you done this? These projects are so... These PayPal, SolarCity, Tesla, SpaceX, they're so spectacularly different. They're such ambitious projects at scale. How on earth has one person been able to innovate in this way? What is it about you? Almost no one can do that.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
Elon Musk, I wish we had all day,
Sorry.
but thank you so much for coming today. Thank you. That was awesome.
I look in Isaiah 14 where it talks about Lucifer. It actually says in Isaiah 14 what Lucifer's big plans are. Lucifer's big plans are. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will ascend into heaven.
I will ascend into heaven.
I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, above the stars of God.
Above the stars of God.
I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds.
I will ascend above the heights of the clouds.
I will be like the Most High, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. Now here, I mean, this pretty much covers it. This basically gives us what Satan's plan is.
I mean, it's a beast. I mean, it's a beast.
Congratulations on a wonderful capture. You've made a lot of folks happy down here over in Hawthorne and right here in Houston. Great job, guys.
Houston Station, looks like we got us a dragon by the tail. We're thinking This sim went really well. We're ready to turn it around and do it for real.
And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet.
The 3 of you look great inside the dragon. I wonder if you could describe your surroundings a little bit, and would you feel comfortable riding up in one of those on a future mission?
Well, I spent quite a bit of time poking around in here this morning, just looking at the engineering and the flying layout. Up in a human-rated dragon is not going to be an issue.
Golden Hands Aki Hoshidi was at the controls and grabbed the dragon, and then we brought it close next to the space station, and then I got to actually birth it, so that was pretty fun. A lot of cargo. You might see behind me, we started taking stuff out. Some of the white bags right behind me is all the cargo. This is a crew care package which we got. We also got a little dessert, got a little ice cream, so we're looking forward to having that tonight. We just unpacked it this afternoon, so we put it in our refrigerator here waiting to have it tonight. It's quite a treat. We don't usually have this type of stuff up here. It's usually thermostabilized or dehydrated that we're hydrating, so homemade ice cream is something special, and we're going to have a little party. Aki and I were telling Yuri about it last night, and tonight's our dessert night.
Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image, made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. We speak that we do know, and testify that we have seen, and ye receive not our witness. If I have told you earthly things, and ye believe not, how shall ye believe if I tell you of heavenly things? And no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, Amen. Because thou sayest, I am rich, and increased with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked? I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear. And anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous therefore and repent. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him, and will sup with him, and he with me. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him, and will sup with him, and he with me.
The weird part about it is space is so incredibly black, so incredibly dark. It's a bottomless pit of deep black. Almost so deep it almost has a texture when you look at it.
It's wandering stars to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. And the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. Even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition.
And I saw a deep abyss, with columns of heavenly fire, and among them I saw columns of fire fall, which were beyond measure, alike towards the height and towards the depth. And beyond that abyss I saw a place which had no firmament of the heaven above, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. There was no water upon it, and no birds, but it was a waste and horrible place. I saw there 7 stars, like great burning mountains, and to me, when I inquired regarding them, the angel said,
This place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and host of heaven.
And the stars which roll over the fire are they which have transgressed the commandment of the Lord in the beginning of their rising, because they did not come forth at their appointed times. And he was wroth with them, and bound them till the time when their guilt should be consummated, even for 10,000 years.
Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bands asunder, and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, the Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee.
And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, 2 men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus which is taken up from you into heaven shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven.
And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them throughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth.
And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, Art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
And we could resume the dream of Apollo. The goal of SpaceX really was to make as much progress as possible to advance rocket technology to the point where hopefully we can establish a colony on Mars. Dream of Apollo.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
And we could resume the dream of Apollo.
The angel of the bottomless pit.
Apollo.
Earth's atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, the friction of air slows Orion considerably, while also subjecting it to temperatures of 5,000 degrees. With the Orion now at just 300 miles per
I think you asked how did I get up to the ISS and how long do I spend, and I came up here just like all the crew members since the space shuttle retired in 2011.
The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked.
Since the space shuttle retired in 2011.
And it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it.
We all fly on the Russian Soyuz rocket and Soyuz spacecraft.
And behold another beast, a second, like to a bear. And it raised up itself on one side.
We all fly on the Russian Soyuz rocket and Soyuz spacecraft.
Like to a bear. And it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh.
Since the end of the shuttle program, the only ride of the station has been on the Russian Soyuz. But by working with SpaceX and Boeing, there's soon going to be a new fleet of spacecraft capable of bringing humans to low Earth orbit. And of course, all of this supports the mission of the International Space Station, humanity's premier laboratory in space, where we're pushing the boundaries in science and technology every single day.
After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes, like the eyes of man, and a mouth, speaking great things.
The bug for space really bit me when I came down to visit my grandpa down here in Houston. So I saw the big old Saturn V rocket sitting on its belly out there and just thought, man, if humanity can do something this amazing, this awesome, I want to be a part of it. And I just fell more in love with the idea of space and being a part of something bigger than myself. The thought of actually getting to space, I couldn't wrap my head around that. You walk up to this rocket that's covered in frost from the cold fuel inside, and it's creaking and groaning and kind of alive, and you're like, well, that's pretty cool, but they're probably gonna cancel. It's just not gonna happen. You know, I've done so many sims, and it just can't be real. There's no way I'm gonna go to space. But then when no kidding, it lights off and you feel the rumble, and then you start to move, and that kind of just constant smooth acceleration, pulling you back in the seat. Everything comes to life on the panels. You see all of the things that you've seen 100 times in Sims. In one instant, all of that I felt was unimaginable became real. And it was a magical thing I'll just never forget. You know, we're scientists and engineers and pilots and doctors. We're not poets, but we sure try to be, because you want to share as best you can the experience that you've seen and felt. I think I told my wife once I got on board that I thought it was
It's a burrito of awesomeness smothered in awesome sauce, baby. It's so beautiful.
It was just the beauty of being there yourself with your own eyes and seeing it. One thing that I would love to do while on orbit was, there was a window in one of the Russian modules that looked kind of out the back of the station. And I'd go sit there. I'd turn off everything, and you could get it really dark in there, let my eyes adjust, and just look out at the stars. And the stars, you know, the longer you sit, the more you see, and it becomes unbelievable. The number, just billions of stars, the Magellanic Clouds, the galaxies that you can see with your naked eye. And they don't twinkle. they just stare at you. They dare you to come and to explore. It lights a fire inside your soul that is unlike anything I ever experienced before or since. And it's why you see astronauts, you know, they say 560, 580, I don't know how many people have gone to space. They're all the same. They all have that bug. And they all want to do everything in their power after experiencing that to make sure that humanity reaches its potential, that we get there, that we don't just see the stars, that we explore them, that we live there, that we grow into what we can be. And you're reminded of the incredible potential that we have as humans when we put everything else aside and just work together. And you feel a part of that, looking out the cupola and just being a part of thousands of people from across this globe that have put together this just palace in the sky for us to discover and learn and grow. It showed me the potential of what humanity can be when you work together as one team. It inspired me to do everything I can in my power for the rest of my life to enable humanity to evolve, to get there, to those stars that were staring straight in my face and daring us to come get them. That is something that you can never quench. It's been a couple years since I flew, and that fire still burns just as strong today as it will when I die.
Subscribe for more space.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt.
So deep it almost has a texture when you look at it. The weird part about it is space is so incredibly black, so incredibly dark. It's a bottomless pit of deep black, almost...
Even darkness which may be felt.
So deep it almost has a texture when you look at it.
And darkness was upon the face of the deep.
Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. Wandering stars.
Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame. Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the 8th person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them an ensample unto those that after should live ungodly. And these are wells without water, clouds that are carried with a tempest, to whom the mist of darkness is reserved forever.
When you come in from a spacewalk, you're surrounded by the emptiness of space. It's sort of like the opposite of air. There's nothing there at all. When you quickly repressurize the hatch and you open up the hatch and you smell, what is that lingering smell from a place that used to be exposed to space? The smell in there is a little bit like that trace of a smell of gunpowder or burnt steak, or sort of like brimstone, like a witch has just been there. It's a cool, lingering trace of a smell. I think what it really is, brimstone, like sort of that metallic gunpowder-fired smell, that a witch has just been there. In truth, it smells a little bit like a witch has just been there. It smells a little bit like a burnt steak. Brimstone. It smells a little bit like a burnt steak. Brimstone. Like a witch has just been there. It's a witch has just been there. It's a witch has just been there. It's a witch has just been there.
Brimstone.
That's true. True.
Go forth and descend through all the heavens, and thou wilt descend to the firmament, in that world, to the angel in Sheol thou wilt descend. Heavens, and thou wilt descend to the firmament, in that world, to the angel in Sheol thou wilt descend. Heavens, and thou wilt descend to the firmament, in that world, to the angel in Sheol thou wilt descend. And we ascended to the firmament, I and he, and there I saw Samael and his hosts, and there was great fighting therein, and the angels of Satan were envying one another. And we ascended to the firmament, I and he, and there I saw Samael and his hosts, and there was great fighting therein, and the angels of Satan were envying one another.
For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved. For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment.
And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains unto darkness, unto the judgment of the great day. He hath reserved in everlasting chains. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains unto darkness, unto the judgment of the great day.
But cast them down to hell.
Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame. Wandering stars, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. And the blackness of darkness forever. Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
And the entire law of the stars will be closed to the sinners, and the thoughts of those who dwell upon the earth will go astray over them, and they will turn from all their ways and will go astray, and will think them gods.
Wandering stars.
And I saw a burning fire in what was in all the mountains, and I saw a place there beyond the great earth. There the waters gathered together, and I saw a deep chasm of the earth with pillars of heavenly fire, and I saw among them fiery pillars of heaven, which were falling, and as regards both height and depth they were immeasurable.
But cast them down to hell.
And beyond this chasm I saw a place, and it had neither the sky above it, nor the foundation of earth below it. There was no water on it, and no birds, but it was a desert place. And a terrible thing I saw there, 7 stars like great burning mountains.
Wandering stars.
And like a spirit questioning me, the angel said, This is the place of the end of heaven and earth. This is the prison for the stars of heaven and the host of heaven. And the stars which roll over the fire, these are the ones which transgressed the command of the Lord.
Wandering stars.
From the beginning of their rising, because they did not come out at their proper times. And he was angry with them, and bound them until the time of the consummation of their sin, in the year of mystery. And Uriel said to me, The spirits of the angels who were promiscuous with women will stand here.
Blackness of darkness.
And they, assuming many forms,
wandering stars,
made men unclean, and will lead men astray, so that they sacrifice to demons as gods.
Wandering stars.
And they will stand there until the great judgment, on which they will be judged, so that an end will be made of them.
Whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. The blackness of darkness forever. Well, I believe he's clearly talking about hell. Because in the Bible, there's a place where there's darkness forever. And it's called hell and the lake of fire.
And realize that we're on this very special place, and this precious island in this abyss of darkness, 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 in this abyss of darkness.
yet thou shalt be brought down to hell to the sides of the pit. Now,
3, 2, 1, 0. And ignition and liftoff of the Atlas V with the Solar Dynamics Observatory.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb.
Liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, launching Dragon to the International Space Station.
And he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
And stage 1 entry burn is underway. It's a burn of about 10 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
So that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
Falcon 9 first stage headed back toward Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, where it launched 6 minutes, 37 seconds ago.
Stage 2 performance nominal.
And he doeth great wonders, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. And the Lord God of the holy prophets sent his angel to show unto his servants the things which must shortly be done.
Those precious young people. back at Landing Zone 1 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station.
LZ-1, the F9 has landed. Landing operators proceed.
For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Hell from beneath is moved for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. And I, John, saw these things and heard them. And when I had heard and seen, I fell down to worship before the feet of the angel which showed me these things. Then saith he unto me, See thou do it not, for I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren the prophets, and of them which keep the sayings of this book. When he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, 2 men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus which is taken up from you into heaven shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. Who is able to make war with him?
The earth is spinning, and it gives us the seasons.
Fear before him all the earth. The world also shall be stable, that it be not moved, that it be not moved.
The earth is spinning, and it gives us the seasons.
Who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever, that it should not be removed forever.
Getting deep into the actual, movement of the earth.
The Lord reigneth. He is clothed with majesty. The Lord is clothed with strength, wherewith he hath girded himself. The world also is established, that it cannot be moved. The world also is established, that it cannot be moved.
Movement of the earth as it related to the stars and to the sun. There's an odd thing that takes place on this earth. You know that one spin of the earth is a 24 hours, okay? That's one day.
In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it. and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof.
If it spun on a perfect vertical axis, then nothing would change as far as the relationship of the stars to the earth, but it doesn't. It wobbles.
For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he hath set the world upon them.
And it takes it 25,000 and something years to make one wobble. It takes it one day to make one turn. The earth is spinning, and it gives us the seasons. Now, this wobble is what we call the precession of the equinoxes. No man's lived long enough to observe this. No man's lived long enough to observe this. The stars change position in the heavens ever so slowly.
Say among the heathen that the Lord reigneth. The world also shall be established, that it shall not be moved. He shall judge the people righteously. The world also shall be established, that it shall not be moved.
And what we have here is that the earth is turning back against the stars, but it's spinning in the other direction for the day. So it's spinning in two different directions. All right, and it's not spinning in two different directions. It's spinning in one direction, but as it spins, it wobbles.
The world also shall be established, that it shall not be moved.
The North Star has changed over time, and it has changed down through time because of the wobbling of the earth.
That it should not be removed forever.
When you take a position where you absolutely and dogmatically state, well, if you don't believe this, you're not a believer. Yes, I am a believer.
If I have told you earthly things, and ye believe not, how shall ye believe if I tell you of heavenly things?
The earth is spinning.
The world also is established, that it cannot be moved.
And it offends me to my soul for somebody to tell me, because I don't believe in a flat earth, that I'm not a believer.
But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues.
You're welcome. You're welcome to come. I want to say that one more time. You are welcome to come to Temple Baptist Church if you believe in a flat earth. Just don't try to evangelize people.
But take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to councils, and in the synagogues ye shall be beaten, and ye shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them.
But I'll tell you right now, folks, if you believe in a flat earth, these people out here are laughing their head off at you.
If the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you.
They are laughing their head off at you.
And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth.
It shouldn't have to happen. A Johnny-come-lately trumped up something that came out of the cracks, and all of a sudden it's the rage.
If ye were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you.
And everybody's jumping on board of the flat earth thing.
And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake.
The one thing that absolutely convinces me is this Christian astronaut who spent over a year up there, and all the photographs and all the videos that he made. Is this man a liar? And he's not the only one.
And no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven.
With a sphere, a globe, whatever you want to believe, that's up to you.
And the gospel must first be published among all nations. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, we speak that we do know, and testify that we have seen, and ye receive not our witness.
Okay, I'm a flat earther.
choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
When we could resume the dream of Apollo. The goal of SpaceX really was to make as much progress as possible to advance rocket technology to the point where hopefully we can establish a colony on Mars. Dream of Apollo.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
And we could resume the dream of Apollo.
The angel of the bottomless pit.
Apollo.
NASA is now embarking on a bold new program called Artemis. Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo,
which is the angel of the bottomless pit,
and the goddess of the moon in Greek mythology.
50 years ago, we went to the moon. We called it Apollo.
What many people don't know is that Apollo had a twin.
She was a woman named Artemis,
goddess of the moon.
It is the stated policy of this administration and the United States of America to return American astronauts to the moon within the next 5 years.
Our agency, NASA, is going to do everything in its power to meet that vision.
We're proud of what we do here, so come join NASA as we go forward to the moon and on to Mars.
NASA lied. We don't live on a spinning ball. Earth is flat.
Behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him. There was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered.
So how does it feel to ride in a dragon on top of the beast named Falcon 9?
Yeah, wow. I tell you, I don't know if there's words really to properly describe what that felt like. You talk about sitting on a dragon on top of the beast, and it definitely was. You knew you were going somewhere. And this one was a little bit longer, so we actually had to live in dragon for quite a while.
Ride in a dragon on top of the beast named Falcon 9.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
Sitting on a dragon on top of the beast. Yeah, wow.
Stage 1 entry startup.
And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he doeth
Stage
great
1 is
wonders,
transonic.
so that he maketh fire come down from
Stage
heaven
1
on the
landing
earth in the sight of men. Fire come down from heaven on the earth.
Stage 1 landing leg deploying.
Fire come down from heaven on the earth. Fire come down from heaven on the earth.
Falcon 9 has landed. Sitting on a dragon on top of the beast.
It's a bottomless pit.
In this abyss of darkness.
They really believe in the space frontier of the abyss, so to speak.
The good abyss. The good abyss.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord.
As for the beauty of his ornament, he set it in majesty, but they made the images of their abominations. But they made the images of their abominations and of their detestable things therein. Therefore have I set it far from them, and I will give it into the hands of the strangers for a prey, and to the wicked of the earth for a spoil. and they shall pollute it, and they shall pollute it. My face will I turn also from them, and they shall pollute my secret place, for the robbers shall enter into it and defile it. An end, the end is come upon the four corners of the land. Now is the end come upon thee, and I will send mine anger upon thee, and will judge thee according to thy ways, and will recompense upon thee all thine abominations. And mine eye shall not spare thee, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense thy ways upon thee, and thine abomination shall be in the midst of thee. And ye shall know that I am the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God, an evil, and only evil, behold, is come. An end is come, the end is come. It watcheth for thee. Behold, it is come. The morning is come unto thee, O thou that dwellest in the land. The time is come, the day of trouble is near, and not the sounding again of the mountains. Now will I shortly pour out my fury upon thee, and accomplish mine anger upon thee. And I will judge thee according to thy ways, and will recompense thee for all thine abominations. And mine eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity. I will recompense thee according to thy ways and thine abominations that are in the midst of thee.
And to continue the dream of Apollo.
We stand on the shoulders of giants that came before us.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Apollo. The goal of SpaceX is to try to advance rocket technology, and in particular to try to crack a problem that I think is vital for humanity to become a spacefaring civilization.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast.
And now Elon Musk is the card. But Elon Musk is sending up huge rockets into the space. He's sending these rockets up. Do you know what he plans to do next? He's going to put people on them and send them up to the moon. The people that have the money, they're going to go up to the moon. What are they going to do? They're going to look out the windows and photograph the earth. Think of all these people that are going to be going up. And this is a few years, it's not long in the future. And they're going to be photographing this round, blue, beautiful planet out here in space. Thousands of photographs and videos from the space station as it moved in the heavens above the earth. Such a magnificent sight, it took his breath away. Right now, you can log on to the internet if you want to. And you can go to the International Space Station, the ISS, and you can get a live feed from that space station. Right now, you can watch it as it moves across the face of the earth.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. And I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is.
Let's start talking about space and what you've been doing there. Obviously, you've had some success landing the rocket.
Probably, and the most significant thing is being able to land an orbit-class rocket.
And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
If you spin a marble or a coin on a coin funnel, when it's far out, it sort of spins slowly, and then as it gets closer, it spins faster and faster. And if you were to start at the bottom of the coin funnel and you wanted to exit, you'd spin it horizontally, and it would spin out, and that's really how you get to orbit. Yeah, so the gravity well is like a funnel.
Why you want to land on a ship in the ocean?
Because in order to get to orbit, all that matters is your horizontal velocity. Your altitude doesn't really matter. In fact, the force of gravity at say the sort of nominal boundary of space, 100 kilometers, is almost exactly the same as it is on the surface of the Earth. It's a few percent lower than the surface of the Earth. So in order to go up and stay up, the only thing that matters is how fast are you going horizontal to the Earth's surface. So you have that outward radial acceleration, or think of it maybe like tetherball or something like that. It's really that outward acceleration is the thing that matters. And so when the rocket is going to orbit, the only reason it's going up is to get out of the thick part of the atmosphere. Because at high velocity, the atmosphere is thick as molasses. And so it goes up very briefly, but if you look at a long exposure of the rocket's trajectory, you'll see it goes up, but immediately curves over and starts going horizontal. And so at the point at which the point at which the stages separate, there's two stages.
After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured, and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns.
The primary boost stage, which is the most expensive part of the rocket, the point at which that staging occurs can be as high as Mach 10. But it's going away from the launch site at 10 times the speed of sound. So in order to get back to the launch site, you would have to have enough fuel and oxygen to reverse out that velocity and boost back all the way to the launch site. And you just don't have, the physics of it don't really allow you to have that much. It's not about saving money on fuel or anything, it's just physically impossible. Because another sort of thing about if you're in space is that there's nothing to react against. So, whereas an aircraft can circle very easily because it's reacting against air, in vacuum there's nothing to react against. So the only way to go back the other direction is to apply just as much energy as it took you to go. If you want to go backwards, you have to apply just as much energy as it took you to go forwards. In fact, well, twice as much really, because you've got to zero it out, and then you've got to.
So you've got to land elsewhere.
Yeah. So bottom line is this thing is zinging out to sea at 10 times faster than a bullet.
At that point, it may well be over the ocean because the ocean covers most of the.
Oh, it's actually at the point of separation. It's not that far away. It's maybe 100 kilometers away from the launch site, but it is going like hell in the opposite, away from the launch site. So the only way to really land it is to have it continue on that arc, that ballistic arc, and then land far out to sea on a ship that's pre-positioned to a particular latitude and longitude, very, very precise, to within about a meter. And then the rocket will then go from vacuum through rarefied air at hypersonic velocity. So when it's in vacuum, it has to, obviously you can't use aerosurfaces, you have to use nitrogen jets to control the attitude and position. And then as it starts to encounter the air, we use grid fins, because grid fins look like sort of like a waffle.
And it had great iron teeth.
They work quite well across a wide regime, from both very high velocity hypersonics through supersonic, transonic, and subsonic. So it's hard to have aero surfaces that work well across that entire regime. And then, so once the aero forces become high, it uses the 4 grid fins to sort of control its attitude.
To land itself.
Yeah, it's controlling it's controlling pitch, yaw, and roll with the grid fins. And then those grid fins will then position it to where it's fairly close to the ship, and then it will light, in this case, 3 of the 9 engines to arrest the velocity, and then drop to 1 engine for precision right before landing.
Right. Why is that important? Why has this moment been important for you?
Well, so in order to reuse the boost stage, which is about 70% of the cost of the rocket. So
Which cost is that? How much is that?
Well, I mean, it's sort of on the order of $30 to $35 million.
We've been going to space for what, 50 years or something like that?
Yeah.
Nobody, until you started doing this and Jeff Bezos' company has done it, the government never sort of saved the rockets.
Yeah.
They never saved the pallet of cash. Why not? And the Russians didn't either. I mean, what was the deal there?
Yeah, I mean, there was some attempt made to do that with the space shuttle, but there was no return. It's the first time that a rocket boost has returned to launch site from an orbital mission, and certainly the first time that there's been a landing on a ship out
But
to
the
sea.
regular rockets that went up that weren't designed like planes never tried to do this.
Right. The plane thing is not a good idea in my view. So the plane, and the reason I think is, like, intuitively it seems like a plane should work, but actually if you consider that really every mode of transport has a design that is appropriate to its medium, and if you're in space, wings are not very useful because there's no air.
The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it.
And then if you want to go somewhere other than Earth, there's also no runways. So these are important considerations.
And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death.
So that's why when they went to the moon, they used propulsive landing.
Right, but what I'm saying was when they built the space shuttle, it sort of was like looked like a kind of bulbous
I think that appealed
plane.
to Congress, yeah. Yeah.
They went, cool, cool.
Yeah, it looked like an airplane.
Can you explain the you know, Jeff Bezos.
Good one.
Jeff Bezos was here last night, and I asked him, what's the difference between what you're doing and what Elon Musk is doing? And he said, well, I think we have, I think he used the word like-minded in the general sense of it, and then he went on to explain some differences. But he talked about, and correct me if I'm misquoting him, but I think he was saying, this is all about laying the foundations of being able to do greater things by getting the basic infrastructure of being able to reuse these rockets down right. Is that correct? Do you have a similar starting point from him and your thinking process?
I think there's certainly some similarities of opinion. I think both Jeff and I believe that it's important for the future to be a spacefaring civilization and ultimately be out there among the stars. And I think,
Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord.
I think that's the exciting, inspiring future that I think certainly people in this room want.
For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God.
I mean, I think when I say, multi-planet species, like, that's really what we want to be. It's not like, still being a single planet species but moving planets. It's really being a multi-planet species and having civilization and life as we know it extend beyond Earth to the rest of the solar system and ultimately to other star systems.
I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
I think that's the thing. That's the future that's exciting and inspiring, and I think that's what, I think, you need things like that to make to be glad to wake up in the morning. Like life can't be just about solving problems. Like there have to be things that are inspiring and exciting that make you glad to be alive.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven.
So what, in the immediate time frame, what is your goal for SpaceX now that you've done this, which is a huge accomplishment? What is the plan for you in the immediate time and then the longer range?
Sure. So so we plan to refly one of the landed rocket boosters, hopefully in about 2 or 3 months, something like that. And then so that'll be an important milestone. So far, the stages are looking like quite good, even though they come through quite. It's a really difficult re-entry situation, but they're looking like they're in good shape. And we now have 4 of them. So we want to start reflying them, towards the end of summer, and then hopefully by the end of this year we'll be launching Falcon Heavy, which will be the most powerful rocket in the world by more than a factor of 2. So Falcon Heavy will be on the order of 5 million pounds of thrust on liftoff, which is about 2/3 the size of a Saturn V.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
that's the rocket that took the astronauts to the moon.
Right. Exactly.
So,
in fact, we're launching from the same pad,
very same pad,
from the Apollo 11 pad.
Wow.
And deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast.
The launches will take place, every 2 to 4 weeks. There's quite a high launch cadence.
That's a much faster cadence than NASA had, right?
Yeah, it'll be more launches than anything else in the world.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
So more than Russia, more than Europe, more than China by next year, certainly.
And largely to deliver customers' satellites.
Yeah, there's a lot of broadcast and communication satellites that are going to geosynchronous orbit, and then we'll also be launching the new Iridium constellation. So that Iridium's got a next generation constellation of satellites. I think 60 or 70 satellites, quite decent sized satellites. That'll be like many orders of magnitude improvement over the current Iridium system. So we'll be able to have global broadband. So that'll be a whole bunch of launches, and and then next year we'll be flying Dragon version 2, which is the one that's capable of taking up to 7 astronauts to the space station.
I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things.
In fact, Dragon 2 really it's a propulsive lander as well, and it'll be it's intended to carry astronauts to the space station, but it's also capable of being a general science delivery platform to anywhere in the solar system. So,
so where are you going with it?
Well, we're going to send one to Mars in 2018.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads.
Now, let's talk about
wait. 2018, that's for sure.
Yeah, a couple of years.
Okay. Now, will you be on that flight?
No.
You have talked about this. You said you want to die on Mars, just not on landing, right? Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I think if you're going to choose a place to die, then Mars is probably, not a bad choice.
All right.
But you're not ready.
It's not some sort of Martian death wish or something. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to be born on Earth, die on Mars.
So sending this up to Mars 2018, right? Sending this up to Mars 2018, when will someone like you get there from your plans?
Sure, so the 2018 mission would be our Dragon version 2.
Right.
And I think if things go according to plan, we should be able to should be able to launch people probably in 2024 with arrival in 2025.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth, and them which dwell therein, to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live.
What's the solution?
Yeah, so I think the I think it's to essentially, I think one of the solutions that seems maybe the best one is to have an AI layer. If you think of like you've got your limbic system, your cortex, and then a digital layer, sort of a third layer above the cortex, that could work well and symbiotically with you. I mean, just as your cortex works symbiotically with your limbic system, your sort of a third digital layer could work symbiotically with the rest.
This is something that's surgically inserted or bred into the species, or what?
The fundamental limitation is input-output. So we already have, we're already a cyborg. It's just that, I mean, you have a digital version of yourself or partial version of yourself online in the form of your emails and your social media and all the things that you do. And you have basically superpowers in that with your computer and your phone and the applications that are there. You have more power than the President of the United States had 20 years ago. That you can answer any question, you can video conference with anyone anywhere, you can send a message to millions of people instantly. You know, you just do incredible things. And but the constraint is input-output. So we're I/O bound, particularly output bound. I mean, like your output level is so low. It's like, particularly on a phone, like your 2 thumbs just sort of tapping away. This is ridiculously slow. Our input is much better because we have a high bandwidth visual interface to the brain. Like our eyes take in a lot of data. So there's many orders of magnitude difference between input and output. So mostly, effectively merging in a symbiotic way with digital intelligence revolves around eliminating the I/O constraint. So it'd be some sort of direct cortical interface.
And you called it a neural lace?
Neural lace, yeah.
It's totally not Google Glass, right?
No, I'm talking about something
but it's like you wear it? Or
no, I mean, it would be, I mean, there are a few ways to approach this, but some sort of interface directly with your cortical neurons particularly.
But doesn't that imply surgical insertion?
Not necessarily. You could go through the veins and arteries because that provides a complete roadway to all of your neurons. Your neurons are very heavy users of energy, so they need high blood flow. So you automatically, with your veins and arteries, have a road network to your neurons.
Still some kind of surgery, right? Some kind of surgery.
Yes, but you could insert something, you know, basically, you know, into the jugular, and have. It gets macabre, but
it sounds really easy and.
It doesn't involve.
Risk-free.
It doesn't involve, you know, like chopping your skull off or anything like that.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, if we can figure out how to establish a high bandwidth neural interface
with ourselves.
With your digital self, effectively, then you're no longer a house cat.
You can see the International Space Station with your naked eye. I've seen it. You know, you look up and people are looking at it and they got their binoculars and they're looking at it, and you know, it's a little light dot and it's moving. No.
And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not, and yet is.
Show you something in 1 John chapter 2 verse 26. These things I have written unto you concerning them that seduce you. We need to start understanding who our enemy is. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. We need to take these words seriously. Let's look at the word seduce. Leading astray, 4105 Strong's. Let's look at this. It is the root of the English term planet. Wandering body. This term nearly always conveys the sin of roaming. I lead astray, deceive, cause to wander.
And I went round to a place where nothing was made, and I saw a terrible thing, neither the high heaven nor the firm ground, but a desert place, prepared and terrible. And there I saw 7 stars of heaven bound on it together, like great mountains, and burning like fire. 7 stars, like great burning mountains.
And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter.
Then I said, For what sin have they been bound, and why have they been thrown here? And Uriel, one of the holy angels, who was with me and led me, spoke to me and said, Enoch, about whom do you ask? About whom do you inquire, ask, and care? These are some of the stars which transgress the command of the Lord Most High, and they have been bound here until 10,000 ages are completed, the number of days of their sin.
And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth.
And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying,
Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies.
And I heard another voice from heaven saying,
Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities.
And from there I went to another place, more terrible than this. And I saw a terrible thing. There was a great fire there, which burnt and blazed, and the place had no cleft reaching into the abyss, full of great pillars of fire, which were made to fall. Neither its extent nor its size could I see, nor could I see its source. Then I said, How terrible this place is, and how painful to look at. Then Uriel, one of the holy angels, who was with me, answered me. He answered me and said to me, Enoch, why do you have such fear and terror because of this terrible place and before this pain? And he said to me, This place is the prison of the angels, and there they will be held forever. 7 stars like great burning mountains, and like a spirit questioning me, the angels said, "This is the place of the end of heaven and earth. This is the prison for the stars of heaven and the host of heaven. And the stars which roll over the fire, these are the ones which transgressed the command of the Lord from the beginning of their rising, because they did not come out at their proper times. And he was angry with them and bound them until the time of the consummation of their sin in the year of mystery." And Uriel said to me, "The spirits of the angels who were promiscuous with women will stand here, and they, assuming many forms, made men unclean and will lead men astray so that they sacrifice to demons as gods. And there I saw 7 stars of heaven bound on it together, like great mountains and burning like fire. This place is the prison of the angels, and there they will be held forever." And Uriel said to me, "The spirits of the angels who were promiscuous with women will stand here, stand here, stand here. And they, assuming many forms, made men unclean and will lead men astray so that they sacrifice to demons as gods. And they will stand there until the great judgment on which they will be judged, so that an end will be made of them."
And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition.
Mystery. Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me,
Wherefore didst thou marvel? And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast.
Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority.
Through the Commercial Resupply Services, which has already successfully completed 23 different missions with more on the way.
And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority.
Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward, and northward, and southward, so that no beasts might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great. And as I was considering, behold, An he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram. And he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away.
In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt.
so deep it almost has a texture when you look at it. The weird part about it is space is so incredibly black, so incredibly dark. It's a bottomless pit of deep black, almost
even darkness which may be felt.
so deep it almost has a texture when you look at it.
And darkness was upon the face of the deep.
Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. Wandering stars.
Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame. Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the 8th person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them an ensample unto those that after should live ungodly. And these are wells without water, clouds that are carried with a tempest, to whom the mist of darkness is reserved forever.
When you come in from a spacewalk, you're surrounded by the emptiness of space. It's sort of like the opposite of air. There's nothing there at all. When you quickly repressurize the hatch and you open up the hatch and you smell, what is that lingering smell from a place that used to be exposed to space? The smell in there is a little bit like that trace of a smell of gunpowder or burnt steak, or sort of like brimstone, like a witch has just been there. It's a cool, lingering trace of a smell. I think what it really is, brimstone, like sort of that metallic gunpowder-fired smell, that a witch has just been there. In truth, it smells a little bit like a witch has just been there. It smells a little bit like a burnt steak. Brimstone, it smells a little bit like a burnt steak. Brimstone, like a witch has just been there. It's a witch has just been there. It's a witch has just been there. It's a witch has just been there. Brimstone. True.
Go forth and descend through all the heavens, and thou wilt descend to the firmament, in that world to the angel in Sheol thou wilt descend heavens, and thou wilt descend to the firmament, in that world to the angel in Sheol thou wilt descend heavens, and thou wilt descend to the firmament, in that world to the angel in Sheol thou wilt descend. And we ascended to the firmament, I and he, and there I saw Samael and his hosts, and there was great fighting therein, and the angels of Satan were envying one another. And we ascended to the firmament, I and he, and there I saw Samael and his hosts, and there was great fighting therein, and the angels of Satan were envying one another.
For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved. For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment.
And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains unto darkness, unto the judgment of the great day. He hath reserved in everlasting chains. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains unto darkness, unto the judgment of the great day.
But cast them down to hell.
Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame. Wandering stars, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. And the blackness of darkness forever. Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
And the entire law of the stars will be closed to the sinners, and the thoughts of those who dwell upon the earth will go astray over them, and they will turn from all their ways and will go astray, and will think them gods.
Wandering stars.
And I saw a burning fire in what was in all the mountains, and I saw a place there beyond the great earth. There the waters gathered together, and I saw a deep chasm of the earth with pillars of heavenly fire, and I saw among them fiery pillars of heaven, which were falling, and as regards both height and depth they were immeasurable.
But cast them down to hell.
And beyond this chasm I saw a place, and it had neither the sky above it, nor the foundation of earth below it. There was no water on it, and no birds, but it was a desert place. And a terrible thing I saw there, 7 stars like great burning mountains.
Wandering stars.
And like a spirit questioning me, the angel said, This is the place of the end of heaven and earth. This is the prison for the stars of heaven and the host of heaven. And the stars which roll over the fire, these are the ones which transgress the command of the Lord,
wandering stars,
from the beginning of their rising, because they did not come out at their proper times. And he was angry with them, and bound them until the time of the consummation of their sin, in the year of mystery. And Uriel said to me, the spirits of the angels who were promiscuous with women will stand here.
Blackness of darkness.
And they, assuming many forms,
wandering stars,
made men unclean, and will lead men astray, so that they sacrifice to demons as gods.
Wandering stars.
And they will stand there until the great judgment, on which they will be judged, so that an end will be made of them.
Whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. The blackness of darkness forever. Well, I believe he's clearly talking about hell. Because in the Bible, there's a place where there's darkness forever. And it's called hell and the lake of fire.
And realize that we're on this very special place, and this precious island in this abyss of darkness, 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 in this abyss of darkness.
The weird part about it is space is so incredibly black, so incredibly dark. It's a bottomless pit of deep black. Almost so deep it almost has a texture when you look at it.
Wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever.
And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. Here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. And the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. Even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition.
And in those days the angels shall return, and hurl themselves to the east upon the Parthians and Medes. They shall stir up the kings, so that a spirit of unrest shall come upon them, and they shall rouse them from their thrones, that they may break forth as lions from their lairs, and as hungry wolves among their flocks. And they shall go up and tread under foot the land of his elect ones. And the land of his elect ones shall be before them a threshing floor and a highway, but the city of my righteous shall be a hindrance to their horses. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
Stage ground, let's go for flight.
And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. I saw the treasuries of all the winds. I saw how he had furnished with them the whole creation and the firm foundations of the earth.
Is necessary to transport a large number of people and cargo to Mars in order to create a self-sustaining civilization there. Thanks for having me.
So this is the Dragon that goes up into space, right?
Yeah, that's our Dragon spacecraft, or version 1, which is capable of taking cargo to and from the space station.
So when do human beings start going up in it, do you think?
So we expect to complete version 2 of Dragon, which will have astronaut transport capability.
And most of what you do now is send satellites up into space, right? That's how you pay the bills.
Exactly.
But you want to do something much more ambitious with SpaceX.
Yeah, I mean, the long-term aspiration is to develop the technologies necessary to transport a large number of people and cargo to Mars in order to create a self-sustaining civilization there. In order to create a self-sustaining civilization there. And that's really why I started the company, was because it seemed as though...
To create the possibility for life on other planets. To create the possibility for life on other planets. To create the possibility for life on other planets.
Yeah, exactly.
Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. If when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet, and warn the people, then whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet, and taketh not warning, if the sword come and take him away, his blood shall be upon his own head.
And it came to pass after this, that I saw another host of chariots with men riding on them. And they came upon the wind from the east and from the west to the south. And the sound of the noise of their chariots was heard. And when this occurred, the holy ones observed it from heaven, and the pillars of the earth were shaken from their foundations, and the sound was heard from the ends of the earth to the ends of heaven throughout the day.
of Ripley, Little Earth, myself, and our crew, welcome to the Crew Dragon. Congratulations to all of the teams who made yesterday's launch and today's docking a success. These amazing feats show us not how easy our mission is, but how capable we are of doing hard things. Welcome to the new era in spaceflight.
And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
Liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, launching Dragon to the International Space Station, launching Dragon to...
He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth, by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast.
The son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things? And now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned, who believed not the truth, but had pleasure.
After this I saw in the night visions, and behold a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high. But one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beasts might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered.
He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven,
Now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto the death.
behalf of Ripley, Little Earth, myself, and our crew, welcome to the Crew Dragon. Congratulations to all of the teams who made yesterday's launch and today's docking a success. These amazing feats show us not how easy our mission is, but how capable we are of doing hard things. Welcome to the new era in spaceflight.
And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another,
Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly.
And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said,
Go to, let us build a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth.
And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said,
Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do.
In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw, that I was at Shushan in the palace which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram. I'm stopping there because we need to look at this word ram, 352 in Strong's Concordance, A-Y-I-L, Ahil. The definition of it is a ram, but mighty man, lintel, oak, post, ram, tree, from the same as UWL, properly strength, hence anything strong, specifically a chief, politically also a ram, from his strength, a pilaster as a strong support, an oak or another strong tree, mighty man, lintel, oak, post, ram, tree. Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beasts might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. You know, Daniel described this so well, but he called it a he-goat. And by the time John got his vision of the time of the end, similar to Daniel, John knew the name. Let me read Revelation 12, verses 3 and 4. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And remember, this is a vision John's having. This is something he's seeing. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered.
All stations on Dragon, 1 minute until configure for terminal count.
T-minus 30 seconds. Minus 15 seconds.
Falcon 9, go for propel loading. Dragon is in countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
It's just after midnight on March 3rd, and you are looking at a live view of the Dragon spacecraft as it approaches the International Space Station for a planned docking in just under 2.5 hours from now. Dragon 2, Dragon,
and in case you missed it, which I don't know how you could have, the mission began just about 24 hours ago when Falcon 9 lifted off from historic Launch Pad 39A in Cape Canaveral at 2:49 a.m. local time, lighting up the sky. Falcon 9 carrying Crew Dragon in
Dragon is Dragon will Dragon all Dragon Dragons Dragon is Dragon Space Dragon X Dragon into Dragon Dragons Dragon is Dragon's Dragon while Dragon is Dragon's Dragon deliver
Dragon into space
Dragon Space Dragon
fly on Dragon Crew Dragons. NASA's Commercial Crew Program though represents a new era in space travel, and since the end of the shuttle program, the only ride to the station has been on the Russian Soyuz. But by working with SpaceX and Boeing, there's soon going to be a new fleet of spacecraft capable of bringing humans to low Earth orbit. And of course, all of this supports the mission of the International Space Station, humanity's premier laboratory in space, where we're pushing the boundaries in science and technology every single day.
The space station, its history is really interesting. It's been up in orbit for almost 2 decades now. Let's take a close look at how the International Space Station came to be and its role in furthering human space exploration.
The International Space Station, a football field-sized, million-pound laboratory flying around planet Earth at 17,500 miles per hour. It's our home in low Earth orbit and the bridge to exploring the far reaches of our solar system. A place to learn what it takes to live, to work, to thrive in space. Thanks to space agencies representing more than a dozen countries around the world, it went from the drawing board to liftoff when the first piece flew into space in 1998. That kicked off over a decade of construction, hauling the station to orbit piece by piece on NASA's space shuttle and Russian rockets. And after the first crew arrived in November 2000, we started an unbroken streak of humans living and working in space. Building on the legacy of past outposts like Skylab and Mir, the International Space Station became the training ground for humanity's next great journeys. Learning how to live in space for extreme periods of time, building and perfecting the technologies necessary to travel to our neighbors in the solar system. It gave us a place right on our doorstep to prepare for the next giant leap into the unknown. And thanks to the station, a new era in outer space is unfolding. What was once the domain of only nations and governments is now populated by a growing space fleet from American industry. Private spacecraft to fly cargo and crew members, new habitats and technologies for future space missions, and an open door for companies, research institutions, and even students around the world to do research in space that have never had the opportunity before. All laying the foundation for a robust economy in space. There have been thousands of experiments, hundreds of spacewalks, endless hours of challenges and successes, all done by humans hailing from countries around the globe. The International Space Station is what we can achieve as a planet when we come together to do the things that are hard. And the work isn't slowing down, because we're ready for the next giant leap. Because we're ready to go farther. Because what we do and learn along the way is for the benefit of all of humankind.
Now let's talk a little more about Crew Dragon.
Dragon basically fly itself, but Dragon.
Crew Dragon, Space Dragon.
Falcon 9, the Dragon capsule.
Up to 7 crew members with
Dragon.
Dragon and Dragon to Dragon in Dragon and Dragon 6.
Dragon was Falcon 9 and Dragon. Dragon is healthy. Dragon is a Dragon splashes safely down back on the Earth.
Dragon is headed towards the International Space Station here.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with the rod of iron, And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven,
Now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time.
And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion.
It's the end of the shuttle program. The only ride of the station has been on the Russian Soyuz, but by working with SpaceX and Boeing, there's soon going to be a new fleet of spacecraft capable of bringing humans to low Earth orbit.
And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death. And his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying,
Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
Artificial intelligence is what?
It's just digital intelligence, and as the algorithms and the hardware improve, that digital intelligence will exceed biological intelligence by a substantial margin. It's obvious.
Excuse me, how could AI destroy civilization?
You know, it would be something the same way that humans destroyed the habitat of primates. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be destroyed, but we might be relegated to a small corner of the world. We might be relegated to a small corner of the world. We might be relegated to a small corner of the world.
You're a neuroscience company, and you're working to build basically an interface to the brain. Interface to the brain.
Yeah. Electrode to neuron interface at a micro level.
Okay, what is it? Like, I'm gonna have like a plug in my head that's gonna fit into a hard drive? Like, okay, what is it? Like, I'm gonna have like a plug in my head that's gonna fit into a hard drive? Like, or how does that work?
Yeah. A chip and a bunch of tiny wires.
Or how does that work?
Yeah. A chip and a bunch of tiny wires.
Or how does that work?
Yeah. A chip and a bunch of tiny wires.
This would be implanted surgically. This would be implanted surgically. And it would do what? Could you input? Could you download Jim?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. The long-term aspiration for Neuralink would be to achieve a symbiosis with artificial intelligence.
Basically, an effort for man to merge with machine in a healthy way.
Yes.
Basically, an effort for man to merge with machine in a healthy way.
Yes.
Basically, an effort for man to merge with machine in a healthy way.
Yes.
To beat machines, you basically have to merge with machines.
Most likely, yes. Essentially, how do we ensure that the future constitutes the sum of the will of humanity? And so if we have billions of people with the high bandwidth link to the AI extension of themselves, and so if we have billions of people with the high bandwidth link to the AI extension of themselves, and so if we have billions of people with the high bandwidth link to the AI extension of themselves, it would actually make everyone hyper smart.
Okay, so
This is very esoteric.
Yeah, no, but you say this is more psi than phi, so you believe we're headed this
I
way.
believe this can be done.
When will I be able to get the interface implant?
It's probably on the order of a decade. And by the way, you kind of have this already in a weird way, in that you have a digital tertiary layer in the form of your phone, your computers. You basically have these computing devices that form a tertiary layer on your cognition already.
So wait, we have that imprint in our implant in our brain.
Yeah.
We download most of Jim. Then could I, in the digital Jim, could I make him a skilled Mandarin speaker or a tuba player and re-upload it to him?
Yeah. Along the way, Neuralink is going to help solve a lot of nerve and just memory. Like, as people get older, they lose their memory. And so saying it's incredibly sad when a mother forgets her own children, and that can be solved too.
I've seen you speak in person. We've watched some of your interviews. Like sometimes you seem visibly sad about what's happening.
I think we should try to take the set of actions that are most likely to make the future good for humanity. I'm pro-human. And my faith in humanity has been a little shaken this year. And my faith in humanity has been a little shaken this year. But I'm still pro-humanity.
You've said that this has been the toughest year for you, the most sort of taxing year for you.
No one should put this many hours into work. This is not good. People should not work this hard. They should not do this. It's very painful.
Painful in what sense?
It hurts my brain and my heart. It hurts.
Do you believe in God?
I believe there's some explanation for this universe, which you might call God.
Elon Musk, thank you for an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, sir.
Excuse me, how could AI destroy civilization?
I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be destroyed, but we might be relegated to a small corner of the world. Yeah. Electrode to neuron interface at a micro level.
Okay, what is it? Like, I'm gonna have like a plug in my head that's gonna fit into a hard drive? Like, or how does that work?
Yeah. A chip and a bunch of tiny wires.
Or how does that work?
Yeah. A chip and a bunch of tiny wires.
This would be implanted surgically. And it would do what? Could you input? Could you download Jim?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, basically, an effort for man to merge with machine in a healthy way.
Yes. And so if we have billions of people with the high bandwidth link to the AI extension of themselves, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be destroyed, but we might be relegated to a small corner of the world. When
will I be able to get the interface implant? It's obvious.
No matter who you are and where you come from, what your history is, what your background is, what your beliefs are, just take note of this situation here. In the Bible, it talks about something happening at the end, and there's a dragon involved, and there's a man that blasphemes God's tabernacle and those that dwell in heaven, and he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, And this is no joke. And a lot of people, actually almost everybody, doesn't understand what this is. It's a dominion. It's not a government. It's not of men. You don't understand. We're talking about heaven and God's throne being blasphemed.
He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
And build the foundation for an eventual mission to Mars, which is actually going to happen very quickly. And, you know, I've always said that rich guys seem to like rockets. Go ahead. If you beat us to Mars, we'll be very happy, and you'll be even more famous. But they do like, explain that. Where's Eric? They do like rockets for some reason, huh? They like those rockets. But you know what? If as long as it's an American rich person, that's good. Okay? As long as it's an American rich person, they can beat us. And we are making our incredible facilities, okay, available to these people that have been doing so incredibly by themselves on rocketry. Beyond the earth and into those forbidden skies, but they will not be forbidden for long. Because we are giving you a platform the likes of which nobody has ever been given before.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. And prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And he doeth great wonders, and maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you. Having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time.
future where we are a spacefaring civilization and out there among the stars, this is very exciting. If you can't beat it, join it. Like the purpose of Neuralink is to create a high bandwidth interface to the brain such that we can be symbiotic with AI. I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. I met with Congress. I was at a meeting of all 50 governors and talked about just AI danger, and I talked to everyone I could. No one seemed to realize where this was going.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
This was futile. I tried for years. Nobody listened. Maybe they will. So far they haven't. One thing is for sure, we will not control it. The merge scenario with AI is the one that seems like probably the best.
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads.
I was really going on the warning quite a lot. I was warning everyone I could.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven.
Now, if we do have a third layer, which is the AI extension of yourself, it will enable anyone who wants to have superhuman cognition.
And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
And if that's the case, then, and let's say billions of people do it,
and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name,
then the outcome for humanity will be the sum of human will, the sum of billions of people's desire for the future. And then people may decide that they want to retain their biological self or not. I think they'll probably choose to retain their biological self. If your biological self dies, you could probably just upload into a new unit. Literally.